Hello and welcome. This is the Daily Dharma. My name's Dina. Thank you so much for joining us today. Come on in and have a seat by the fire. Got quite a bit of heat rolling off that fire. And I don't know if any of you are going to be watching these in sequence. Over the weekend, we had Venus crossing Pluto in the skies. Mars has already crossed over the threshold from Capricorn into Aquarius, where Pluto is sitting right there at the cusp, just beyond the 0 degree, but not quite on the 1st degree. Pluto is so slow moving right now. And Mars and Venus having such bearing on our social identity and our, let's dare I say, gender polarized identities. Wherever we fall in that spectrum is a unique combination of ideology, identity, expectations, judgments, and emotion. It's very emotional when we have that Plutonian underworld that is shaking loose in us, that inner beast that has either repressed or glossed over something that is creating some type of friction and tension. And that friction feels very uncomfortable because it's indicating an excitement of our Kundalini energy. And when our Kundalini energy starts moving through the chakras in new ways, these new activations are shaking loose the old debris that is kind of clinging to each of our energetic centers. And I'm using these words in a as though they're matter, because I am using that as a symbol. If you know, you know. So to get out some, well, before that, I wanted to just complete this thought with, as Mars and Venus are that part of our identity, it's been shaking loose the socialized norms within our groups and our relationships. And so there's this huge upsurge of power. Pluto is the underworld, it is the inner beast, but it's also transformation and power. It is power. And we may have a triggering moment that shows us back to our own power, or the feeling of the lack thereof, lack of control, something beyond our ability to figure out a clear and concise way of handling it. It's because of the unprecedented nature of the change that we don't have exact context of how we are going to handle it. And it's showing us to a deeper realm of fear, that we're at that threshold of continuing in the discomfort zone, or moving ourselves beyond and witnessing what is that friction point when we're trying to transition from lower to higher, one state of being to another, to surpass limitations and to keep on persevering in the pursuit of our own goals and success. So we've all got these highly pressurized situations in our lives that are coming to the fore, and it's so divine in so many ways. Pressure and pain can create the poet. We've seen that come up. But also the poet is just an aspect of our creative essence, becoming the philosopher, becoming the artist, because of the tempering of our process with perspective. And so I laid out a couple of cards from my mixed deck with the Kali and Kuan Yin goddess energies mixed together. It's a beautiful mix, and I love it when Kali comes out, because Kali is very Plutonian in her essence. But today we have 3 Kuan Yin cards, and it's for a reason. Venus has come to that power point, and there's been a realization, and now it's time for the softening. It's time for the reflection upon that. And there is always, when we are shifting and changing, the need to be gentle in our judgments, particularly with ourselves, but also with others, because everybody's going through this together. So the 3 cards that come out here, we have Sisters of the Sun Rising, number 28, This is talking about synergy and collaboration within a group. And look at all that yellow and orange energy. It's very sunny, sun rising. So the sun rising can also be shown in the depiction of the sun rising in the third eye when we become newly aware, highly catalyzed by an illuminating realization or a tower moment, perhaps within a group or a family or some type of place where there are many energies at play. And even though this is talking about sisters and sisterhood, which may be relevant to the groups that you're engaged with in this learning cycle, but I believe that even more than that, we're talking about the feminine aspect of all the players. And so the ability for the inner softness and the inner beauty to be catalyzed and activated into a creative pursuit, to be able to lift the feminine up from the depths, from the shadow, from the repressed projections of what we could blame or point at for making us uncomfortable. How dare our circumstances make us uncomfortable? But when we come from the feminine, we can bring that feminine up and say, well, we haven't heard from the feminine yet. Let's check in with that emotional sense, that fluidity sense. What is stalling the flow of the waters within? And it's a need to connect with other individuals on that heart level, to witness the feminine softness and gentleness. And so whether this person is a beefy 300-pound man with tattoos or whatever we want to stereotype, this guy also has his own needs, and we can take into consideration that there's more to the story. Weave the Future Golden, 44. This is all about how we participate with certain circumstances creates the future, how we treat ourselves, how we treat others, how we show up to the game or to the interaction, to the group here. We are bringing ourselves, and what part of ourselves are we trying to bring? Our highly heart-based creative center that wants to work with and illuminate and call forth and magnetize others up from the depths of themselves and develop each other as part of the whole. Or are we bringing that lower self that feels burdened or disregarded, overlooked, undervalued? There's something here about being either allowed to be victimized or taking this into our own hands and saying, okay, although these factors appear, it's up to me to weave this situation in the highest creative process. And the card that came up, I was looking into my own aggressive upsurge energies this weekend, and the card was like this Art of War card came out that it's basically not fighting. Well, anyways, I'll come back to that perhaps if there's time at the end. But it's the best way to win a battle is to not fight. There's a very famous quote that comes from the Tao. And under the deck, speaking of the Tao, is the Tao card in this deck. All about flowing with what comes, with as little judgment as possible, but as much discernment as possible. The below has as much to teach as the above, to not disregard the feminine even within ourselves, bringing our light in a creative manner, coming up with creative solutions to break out of any boxes that other individuals have offered you to step into. no one can keep us in the box. I find myself in these situations as well, and there's always more to the story than what the initial ego or initial 1010, the initial emotional reaction. It comes to show us what we prefer. Sacral chakra comes out with alchemy. Beautiful. So yeah, sacral chakra is about self-worth and feeling connected and bonded with our groups and our soul group and our people. And it's the water, it's the oceans, it's the flow of the Tao. Like energy. Energy flows like water does. And alchemy, again, is how we use our energy. So let's go from there. We like it when the miracle card stops by and shows itself. 33, we've got 33 and 44 here, master numbers. 33 to me is, 3 is the number of the Empress, creativity, processing, 1111. It's also in that manner because of the doubling of creative Empress energy, of building energy on the feminine. It's very perfect with the sisters of the sun rising, calling forth our creative energy. Empress energy doubled is the self-mastery process that takes everything as fuel. Everything nourishes the soul. Nothing comes to harm. Nothing comes without purpose. And nothing is laid to waste. Something also very ancient about when indigenous groups go on the hunt, and instead of feeling any sense of scarcity, they take all aspects and all parts of the animal and they put it to good use. Everything has a purpose, even down to the fat is a great fire starter and a food preserver. So miracles are on their way. The frequency of miracles supports our belief in ourselves as part of Source, and therefore our belief that anything is possible. And to tell you the truth, this 33 and 44 card, the Weave the Future Golden is talking about something very beautiful that's on its way to us now. And I'll find it just to share this, to bring this in for us. Something good is coming your way. Kuan Yin urges you to weave your future into the present moment, to call in and draw to you the opportunities, teachings, circumstances, and synchronicities waiting for you that will enable your soul to live its divine destiny with greater abundance, bliss, and creative fulfillment. So, yes, creative fulfillment, creativity rising with this illumination of your inner self as you allow your creative self to flow into the now moment. There's an upsurge in your magnetism. There's an awakening of your luminosity, which allows people to not only it calls their attention, it shifts the room's focus onto the illuminated individual, but then it magnetizes and resonates with us. So what else with miracle? Solar plexus chakra, that's the creative center. The yellow flower of life supports our sense of self, our personal power, our willpower, as well as our knowing of who we are and what our contribution is to the whole, so that we no longer feel boxed in. We no longer feel subjected to the expectations of others, but we feel that what is inside of us has greater value in being shared and brought back into the fold of the group. We have illuminating wisdom or creative spark that will nourish the group and uplift the whole of the group. We're nourishing the group with the elements of the Tao, whether we came in with some type of aggressive energy, a power play, whether it was ourselves or someone else that had this powerful display coming to be, we seem to be able to synergize with the group and then thereby creating our own opportunities. Divine Feminine. Let's get two more. Emergence. Yep. And Emergence takes the colors of the Miracle card and really kind of focuses it in. It's like, here comes this illuminating display, which is opening doorways, unbeknownst to perhaps yourself. But there's a creative flow that comes through with the uprising or upsurging of authentic emotions. And perhaps that takes being stirred up or triggered to then have someone see this feminine energy and stop discounting it or overlooking it or categorizing it as something that it's not, something it might reflect broadly, but don't we all? So this emergence of the creative spark within the feminine. Root chakra. There's that Kundalini energy too, and it's very grounding to be able to call energy into the solar plexus from the earth itself, from the situation itself, from the depths. And the depths is perhaps where the feminine rests, doing the dirty work sometimes of, I went and had several different deeper conversations with my boyfriend over the weekend, and we were talking about the differences of the masculine and the feminine, how frustrating this becomes in the polarization where somebody wants to build the foundation first, because how can we create a solid, firm structure without a foundation? And the other person wants to build the roof because I don't want to keep on building without a roof. I don't want to sleep without a roof. If it's going to rain, I want a roof. We can build the structure around the columns. And both ways will work, but there are pros and cons to each. And recognizing that we're not doing this to each other or to be complicated or to see something with less clarity than the other individuals that have other ideas. It's offering us a way to stretch ourselves and to invite them to stretch over here and to see, well, is there a way that we can combine our resources instead of wasting energy and dissipated energy in unnecessary struggle and striving, when we could be brainstorming instead of having a tower moment, for instance. Let's get one more here. Empowerment. Yeah, we're definitely talking about Pluto in the Shakti rising. It keeps coming up, so to an extent, I'm not sure how else to explain this. So I'm going to, of course, enjoy coming back to these. 1818, Starborn is on the bottom here. 18 is the moon. Sun and moon are the luminaries that represent the masculine and feminine aspects of self and other. So this naturally splits the deck to 20, the Pilgrim. 20 is the card of judgment in the typical deck. I believe it's discernment in the code card deck. Interesting. And it's talking about the journey and about our sacred embodiment journey, the journey of bringing all of our spiritual aspects and resonances into this earth, and then also not becoming too attached to them and feeling too preoccupied with the process of birth and death. That sounds so esoteric, but what I'm trying to get is that in our own unique pursuit, there's the poet, in our own unique pursuits, it's very specific to us, and we can become very judgmental about what's higher vibrational and what's smarter, what's better, bigger, faster, lesser, or more. And it's up to both individuals on opposite ends of the spectrum to show themselves to the other, because neither can be whole without the others. We cannot be whole without our darkness, and we cannot stretch ourselves beyond the discomfort zone of unlearning until we know the options. Need to get a drink here. All right. There's a few things popped out here. Very interesting. So the unseen, 27, talks about our ability to perceive what others do not, and to be able to be a channel for that information, and to be able to see the unseen forces at work and at play. Work and play. Good balance to have, right? The unseen lessons that are perhaps as aggravating as can be, like perhaps you're trying to take something quite seriously and somebody comes in with this clown attitude, or perhaps what's seeming as immaturity or inappropriate humor, or something that isn't being seen, or the opposite. Everybody's having fun and somebody comes in and is like, well, you can't play all day, we need to eat, so somebody needs to go catch the fish. It's like we can see the obvious, but then there's more at play. We've already said that. Here is the castle. This may be happening in your home or in a place where you are a member of a group and there is some type of leadership or politics at play, a hierarchy. We were talking about a hierarchy this weekend as well, with the masculine and the feminine. So I never completed my thought with that. And Eros, get to that too. That's that sacred sexual energy, perhaps, that's at the base of the spine. And here it's depicted as a black and white and grayscale image of perhaps female lips gently parted with a gem being emerging. Pearls of wisdom coming through the poet's mouth. It's the poet's experience. They've been on a journey. You've been on a journey. So perhaps we're in somebody else's domain here and there's some type of hierarchy at play, but we're introducing the wisdom that comes from somebody who has the beginner's perspective. I'm hearing that I have some company. Hopefully this won't intrude on the message. But what I also want to say is that this masculine feminine thing that we were talking about, it is kind of humorous if you can get beyond the frustrations that feed in or trigger yourself. But what I was pointing out is that the masculine animalistic urges at times can be, the urge to eat is almost eclipsed by the urge to procreate. And so the way he's describing it is that, well, without procreation, there's no survival of the fittest, but because of the masculine impregnating the most amount of gene pools, that there's that cross-pollination happening, that it allows the species to become more diverse, more of a majority, and more dominant, and it creates survival in that method. And as the feminine polarity, I'm thinking, how ridiculous. Well, now that you've got 100 kids to feed and nobody's getting the food, where does that leave me? I've got to go get the food. So the feminine is the chooser. The feminine is the judge. And the feminine comes in and says, yeah, all of these techniques, all of these strategies, and all of these ideas are fantastic. You've got all of these assets and all of these resources. You've dominated the world. But what are you going to eat? You're going to eat your money? Money isn't food. The feminine wants to get down to the duh. And this can happen in complete opposite polarity, where the feminine might be very creative and very inspired to go in multiple different directions, but then the masculine is like, well, we've got to focus on this thing. So it can happen in both ways, but as you can see, applied to your own circumstance, there's a way that we can work with every person's niche and predetermined goals, agendas, and interests in such a way that they become an asset and that others don't compete or storm, they synergize. And it helps us to make use of the energies without loss of effort. So let's find something to round this out. I'm grabbing from the Tao Te Ching deck here because we've got the Tao. And so there is more to learn. Sometimes these are so slippery they come out multiple at a time. So let's see what we get here. All right, we get just one and one on the bottom. Number 63. Act without doing, work without effort. Think of the small as the large and the few as the many. Confront the difficult while it's still easy. Accomplish the great task by a series of small acts. The master never reaches for the great, thus she achieves greatness. When she runs into a difficulty, she stops and gives herself to it. She doesn't cling to her own comfort. Thus, problems are no problem for her. And number 53, the great way is easy, yet people prefer the side paths. Be aware when things are out of balance. Stay centered within the Tao. I hate to interrupt, but I cannot help myself. The way is easy because it's like water. It flows to the path of least resistance. And it fills up the low spots before pushing forward on the path. But when things are out of balance, then all of the water can fall out of the pot, and then there's none to cook, there's none to drink. So within ourselves, staying centered in ourselves helps us to not spill our vital energy out the side paths. And when we dissipate energy, this can happen because of misunderstandings. It can happen because of our best laid intentions of not rocking the boat, or just making people feel good, or playing nice, or taking the bad job so that others don't have to. But these are all things that need to be addressed and put back into balance, and to stay centered within our core. When rich speculators prosper, while farmers lose their land, when government officials spend money on weapons instead of on cures, when the upper class is extravagant and irresponsible, while the poor have nowhere to turn, all this is robbery and chaos. It is not in keeping with the Tao. And so here is where all of this playing nice is bullshit. Simply spoken, somebody sees the toxicity at play here. It's because they've been on this pilgrimage, they've dealt with toxicity, and they understand the good, bad, and the ugly. They understand how to creatively come into higher use of their divine, sacred sexual energy. It's when nothing is sacred, when everything is either hoarded, like even information, we can become selfish with our knowledge or with our love. And when we don't share this forward, it becomes stagnant and it loses I'm hearing kinetic energy, mass, the ability to emerge, the ability to come forth from our core. But when we're able to act and speak gently upon injustices, to advocate appropriately, then we're taking somebody's inattention and telling them that we're putting our foot down, that something is needing to shift here. And it's those pearls of wisdom here that I'm seeing in this castle. It's like the ascension of the throne. It's the core is the sacred temple of that feminine energy, the heart space. We've got a lot of feminine energy on the table right now, and it appears that we are able to alchemize with the feminine aspects, even if these people appear to be insensitive or greedy or whatnot. There's a way that someone, and some may be stirring up the underbelly. There might be a union play going on. There may be so many things at play, but it doesn't have to be an uprising, or oh gosh, I hate to even use that big word that's thrown around, but there's this, and I don't even, oh, so triggered right now. I gotta say it, it's part of the reading. I'm not advocating for politics here, and I have my own personal triggered views on this, but the word that wants to come into being is insurrection, and how there's a lot of misused energy. There's a lot of overturning of sacred processes, of perhaps even democracy, because some people think that there's something that they're losing. They think that they have to take back power and control. And to a small extent, in your own personal lives, and those individuals that feel so triggered, they probably are dealing with a loss of power in their own personal makeup that then pushes them to try to take control of institutions or otherwise. But I'm not getting paid. I just work here, right? I'm just speaking it out as I see it, because our power is only activated and realized within the self. And it's up to us to work positively and proactively within the structures that exist, and to not throw everything away and burn it to the ground, but to work with the other side. All right, guys, I'm going to leave that one there. I hope that you join us back or check in with other messages. Bye now.